What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar thus far, what's going on with some very, very important pieces of news, and how things are looking on the charts in my honest opinion. But before I break into devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you put in $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. But anyways, guys, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets thus far. So we just got the PPI report that came out. SPY pushed to a new all-time high in the morning. This could be a possible liquidity grab because right after SPY ended up dropping once we got the PPI report. There is this gap down here to fill, so we'll see if SPY continues to hold above 517 or if we start to turn back down. I'll be talking about some important levels and such. Why am I talking about this reaction? That's because of the PPI report, which came out a couple of minutes ago. This was not very good. So first and foremost, when PPI came out year over year, this was at 1.6%. We were expecting this to be 1%, so it's a little bit hotter than expected. Core PPI was at 2%. This was aligned with expectations on the hotter end where the forecast was. Core PPI month over month, so that's PPI without food and energy. This was at 0.3%, aligning with expectations. So core was just fine, but PPI for all items was a little bit hot. Month over month was up 0.6% above the forecast of 0.3%. So PPI was hot, guys, for all items. This is another indication that there might be an increase in inflation that's coming out. When CPI came out a couple of days ago, CPI was also hotter than expected. So you want to be very, very careful with all this data. This does suggest that going into the month of March, things could be a little bit shaky for the markets if we get another hot CPI. So be a little bit careful. Initial jobless claims was also lower than expected. And continuing jobless claims was also so-so. So this kind of like tells us that there's still strength in the labor market. Jobless claims are not actually going up to the extent that we were forecasting. So this is what the data is suggesting. And so far, the market kind of like popped and then dropped once this data released. Later on during the day at 11:30, make sure you watch for the 4-week and 8-week bill auctions. 11:30 is going to be Eastern Standard Time, by the way. That's very important. Then at noon, we have the mortgage rates coming out. But that's pretty much it for data. I'm not seeing anything else too crazy in terms of data for the rest of the day. For earnings, I'm going to be super quick with this. We had Dollar General, Dick's Sporting Goods that just came out this morning. Then we have Adobe after the market closes. Dollar General did very, very well because first and foremost, they did well for earnings and they ended up beating on sales with demand being looked at to be very, very strong. And they had good guidance for 2024. That is once again aligned with expectations. That's why the share price is up so far. Good earnings, good demand, good forecasts. Now, for Dick's Sporting Goods, this also is up pretty nicely because we got some very, very bullish news. They raised their dividend, they beat on earnings, and their overall forecast was quite strong. A very, very nice. This is actually stronger than expected in terms of EPS. Revenue is as expected, so very, very strong estimates, strong forecasts. Beating on earnings and raising their dividend is bullish news for Dick's Sporting Goods. That's why the share price is up. Now, with that being done, let's just talk about some news before I break down the charts. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ are once again still decent. They did fall a little bit, at least yesterday, but overall they're not at the worst of places. So we're going to be watching some resistance. There was some news that came out involving TikTok. Basically, the U.S. is going to put more regulations on it because of the fact that it's controlled by a foreign adversary. So we're going to be watching to see what happens here with this. We're still going to be watching to see what the Senate says about the next measure, and we'll see what happens with this bill. This is important because TikTok is once again it's owned and controlled by basically China, and whatever happens with it, it's gonna have a big effect on millions of people in the U.S. that use it. So we'll see what happens. Under Armour announced on Wednesday that the founder will return as CEO, and their current chief executive is going to be stepping down. That's going to be very important. So some new news for them, new management. Palantir CEO is basically saying that his pro-Israel views have led to some employees to leave the company, and he expects to lose more. So he was basically saying that it is what it is. I'm not going to let politics get in the way, so I'm not going to comment too much on that. Consumer demand for EVs isn't showing up the way executives had expected. That's why there's been a lot of talk about how companies like Ford, GM, Mercedes, VW, Jaguar, they're all kind of delaying their EV plans. And on top of this, With that happening, there's been some more talk about Tesla bracing for what could be even lower rates of growth, according to Elon Musk. So we're getting some negative news for the EVs, at least for the morning. But Tesla did get some good news because it also got a nice rating from these rating agencies like Wedbush. They're saying Tesla will still outperform with bullish targets. So, anyways, let's talk about the chart. How are things looking? So SPY pushed up to this 518 resistance in the morning, and it got a kind of like a rejection here. We're coming back down. We haven't actually lost our key support yet, so it's still holding up. And here are some levels to watch for. In my opinion, I think that I'm going to actually look at the 30 minutes time frame. Our 50 EMA happens to be at this 516.5 area. We also have this gap to fill down here, which does suggest it could come down a little bit more to 516.5. If we lose that, we're going to turn more bearish and we could start sinking to like the 515.5 area. If we hold above this and start to break, we have to break 518 to remain bullish. So it's going to be a tough resistance. We did make a new all-time high, but now SPY is kind of shuffling right now. So watch this thing have resistance at 517.5, 518. If it breaks the 518.3 area, 519 to 520 is next. For support, if we lose 516.5, a bigger drop is going to be coming. So make sure you watch these levels. As of right now, it's kind of shuffling a bit. It may make an attempt to push higher, but watch that resistance. The resistance is very tight. We also have this gap below that does suggest we could see a little drop later on to at least 516.5. So I would say it may pop a little bit, but eventually come back down to fill this gap, maybe drop a little bit lower and then try to make its way back up. So SPY does have a risk of kind of like popping and dropping today, but it could get bought back up again and remain within this range. That's the most likely possibility. So watch the resistance levels I called out and see how it performs. For the QQQ, I'm seeing something very, very similar. The QQQ right here has resistance at 442. We have support at 440, and we're still kind of stuck. We popped all the way up to about 442.8 after we got some good data. Then PPI came out and this thing dropped. Now it's going back up, so it's still stuck within this range. The main range is 444 to 440. We're still stuck in between this, so it's going to continue to be trading sideways, in my opinion. May pop a bit towards 442, maybe go a little bit higher, come back down towards 440 later on, and come back up and just trade sideways for now. That's all we're seeing on the QQQ. We're not going to see a much bigger move until we lose 436, well, 438 and then 436. And we have to also break 444 to remain bullish. Otherwise, we're just kind of trading sideways for now. As far as Tesla goes, we're going to watch and see if any new news comes out when we open, but we are getting some good news because Wedbush is saying that Tesla is going to outperform the market. So we're going to see if Tesla can try to get back above 170. If we do attempt to break this, we could push a little higher to like 172. But even if Tesla does push a little bit, it could always reject later on because for the last couple of days, it kind of popped and dropped. So I'm going to be looking for a push, then it might reject at one of these levels and make its way back down. There's a very, very high probability, and Tesla's going to do something very similar to that. But look for an attempt to push towards 170. That's going to be our first resistance. If we kind of push and then drop back down, watch 167.8 as support, not to mention 165. And if we end up losing that, I could see a bigger drop coming again towards, I would say 162. So I'm going to be watching these levels very, very carefully. But I do believe a little pop and drop like move is very probable for Tesla. It could attempt to push at least in the morning, so watch for that little liquidity grab and see if we turn intraday. Finally, we have Nvidia. Nvidia, I just want to say that Nvidia did push a little bit in the pre-market, and it actually got below 900, which is not the best of signs. So it's showing a little bit of weakness. You could even interpret this as like an inverse cup and handle that could lead to more downside in the markets. So just be careful. But for confirmation, here's what you got to watch for. If Nvidia starts sinking and we lose 885, a bigger move down is going to be coming to at least 877. That's my opinion. It could even drop lower if we lose 885. This is going to be our critical support. So let me actually change the color of this to like yellow. I'm going to make this much bigger. So if we lose this support, the yellow line here, we're going to start sinking lower. To be bullish, you want to see it break above this line right here, 908. Otherwise, we're still in this range. So this is going to be our key resistance. We have 900 as resistance and 908. This whole like 908 to 910 range. If we break past this, we could start pushing higher. The chart does look like it's a little bit more bearish. It could actually come down to 885 and lose that. So just be careful on Nvidia. This could slow things down in the markets. And last but not least, we have Aapl stock. Aapl, in my opinion, is looking so-so right now. It's just in the middle, still within this range. There's not really a whole lot going on with it. But then the question is, are we about to form kind of like a head and shoulders? Is this like left shoulder, this accumulation, a distributive structure? I'm not 100% sure. In fact, I'm just going to read the chart and not really worry about that. So we have 172.5 as resistance. If it breaks past this, it could push towards 173. Then we have a tight level at 174 and 175. I know that sounds I know that sounds a little bit strange, but that is how Apple's kind of looking right now. For support, we're going to be watching this thing all the way down to 170.9. If we lose that, 170's next. Those are going to be your critical levels. So what do I see for the chart? Honestly, guys, I think Apple is showing a little bit of life. It could actually try to push a little higher to 172, maybe a little higher. But then we're going to be watching for a potential rejection, and I think it's just going to trade sideways for now. We're still stuck within a big range between 170.9 and 174, so it might just maintain within the range and just trade in between it. So look for a little pump and drop and sideways price action for now. For now, guys, that's what I'm seeing for the markets. Thank you all so much for listening. Please be a little bit careful because PPI did come in hotter than expected. SPY did pop, but we'll see if this thing ends up getting a drop later on. Don't turn too bearish yet. Wait and see if we get the move. Don't forget to watch your support. Critical support is at 516.5 on SPY. We'll see how well it holds for now. Anyways, that's it for my prediction. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.